From 4 News Now, with live updates throughout the day, breaking news as it happens, and weather every 10 minutes. This is KXLY Plus.
Welcome in. I'm Rob King. My guest today is a local Spokane author. His New York Times best-selling Legends and Latte series, the latest book in that, Brigands and Bread Knives, comes out November 11th. Travis Baldree, thank you for hopping on with me. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. Thanks so much for having me.
Let's just start with cozy fantasy. Seems like a new sort of emerging genre. What can you tell me about what cozy fantasy is?
I think cozy fantasy is ultimately stories that leave you feeling a little bit better than when you started, and that generally use fantasy and magic as a way to talk about everyday things that we all contend with instead of going off to slay a dragon or saving the world from a demon lord. It's about, what do you do if you need to switch jobs? What do you do if you have a breakdown in friendship? How do you actually find friends in your 40s? These are the things that cozy fantasy is preoccupied with.
Does it mean that there's no stakes or just lower stakes?
I think we call it low stakes, but honestly, the stakes are high. They're just personal because, whether your business fails or succeeds, whether your romantic relationship works out, whether, your life goes the way that you want it to, feels pretty personally high. But we don't tend to think of that as high stakes because we usually elevate the stakes with like peril or scale. How many explosions can you get on the screen?
Right. Is the world gonna end?
Is the world going to end? So I think it's more about personal stakes.
Which are important to the individual.
They're important, and the older you get, the easier they are to relate to. I don't relate to people slaying dragons. Not going to happen to me.
So I guess what drew you to that genre as an author?
Honestly, COVID-19. It was what I needed in the middle of COVID because the world seemed like a pretty hard place at the time, and a lot of those social connections that I think we rely on, just bumping into somebody that you know at the coffee shop, those things just weren't happening. And so that actually felt like escapist fantasy to me at the time. Going out and seeing somebody I know face to face and having a cup of coffee, that was unimaginable. So
normalcy was fantasy.
I was craving. Yeah.
I could totally get that. So it spawned the Legends and Lattes series. What can you tell me about that?
The Legends and Lattes series. So the first book, Legends and Lattes, is about an orc mercenary who retires from a lifetime of adventure in her late 40s. Because she just doesn't want to do it anymore. So she moves to a new town and opens a coffee shop in a city where nobody has ever heard of coffee before. And it's about kind of the people that she finds and discovering that you're not trapped in the entropy of the life that you've always had. Which actually was my life, and I didn't know it until halfway through. I was a game developer for 2 decades till I was in my 40s, and then I quit and moved to another town and became an audiobook narrator and met a whole community of people that were really great. I just didn't realize that till halfway through.
That it was
and all of the series,
personal.
Yeah. All the series basically deals with kind of like personal change in life that you more or less, I think, people can relate to, and it just uses fantasy to talk about it.
So you were a game developer. Was it just like a grind doing that?
Game development did a lot of great things for me, but it is a brutal industry, and there's not a lot of elderly people in game development. I can tell you that. And so it was a good industry to me, but it takes a great personal toll in time and energy. And eventually I'd done it for long enough, and I wanted to do something else.
Development and developing a story, there's got to be a lot of crossover between that as like a creator. Has that always been kind of your forte?
I think that there's a lot of skills that aren't immediately apparent, but it has to do with the fact that you're basically doing something creative on a deadline. And in games, when you run out of money, everybody's fired. So there's a certain pressure to do something creative that at the same time needs to please the people that you're making it for. So some of it's for you and some of it's for them. And I think a lot of that's applicable when you're writing. You're writing for yourself, but you want to open the doors so that ideally other people are going to actually want to read what you wrote. You're not required to do that, but if you have any aspirations to be a semi-commercial author, it's pretty important. So that was really definitely useful for me.
Well, right on. It's great to hear that you found this after leaving behind what you were doing, which is great to see. Do you still play video games?
I'm very grateful. When I have time, which is seldom, but occasionally when I got a few spare minutes. But they're all so long these days.
Sorry, say that again?
They're all so long these days.
Oh yeah,
If it isn't a 100-hour game.
Yeah, I've found myself leaning more towards indies recently, just because I
Mm-hmm.
can knock out a 15-hour game in a weekend. I do not have time to find every little collectible that there is in the game to feel
Absolutely
success.
not.
So we talked about this earlier, but you're a local and your books have heavy coffee influences. How much of just your area did you incorporate into the books?
There's a few things that remind me of places that I have been. The second book specifically, Bookshops and Bone Dust, takes place in a beach town that for me is a lot like Port Townsend, which is one of my favorite places in the state to go. There's a lot of just basic coffee shop culture in Legends and Lattes. My favorite coffee shop was in Seattle. It was called El Diablo, and it closed during COVID. And so I was thinking about that a lot. And the replacement here for me has been Atticus. I always like going out and hanging out at Atticus. It's a fabulous
Atticus
coffee
is
shop.
great coffee shop. Well, I also want to talk to you about the voice work that you do. You narrate your own books. Why was that a choice to narrate your own books instead of having someone else do it?
Well, I'm ostensibly a professional audiobook narrator. I've narrated hundreds of other people's books. And as a writer, having narrated thousands and thousands of hours, I know exactly how I expect it to sound. So when I first released the book, I really didn't have any aspirations anyway. I was doing it just to do it. So I certainly wasn't going to pay someone else to do it. I could do it at home, and I'll do it in 2 days, and it's no big deal. But having done it, I actually have it in my contract that I'm required to narrate them now because I like doing it. I like seeing them evoked in the way that I imagined them. Plus, I know how everything is pronounced.
Right, hit things tonally, and then there's no questions as to how the city of Thune is pronounced, or Fern, or anything like all your characters and places.
Exactly. Everything is just the way I imagined it, and so if there's a problem, it's actually my fault.
And the people on social media got to be quiet about it because you've dictated
Well,
it.
they can complain, but I don't have to. I don't have to pretend that I'm not associated. So I'm sorry you didn't like that, but I don't. There's no narrator to throw under the bus or to be secretly annoyed with. The only person I get to secretly be annoyed with is me.
But you got to do another take, so.
I get to do another take, that's right.
I've been picking up reading more recently and diving into more fantasy, sci-fi, and fiction books. In my younger days, I used to scoff at those and think you can only read literary classics. Are you seeing a resurgence of fantasy and fiction books, or was I just not privy to what was going on?
I mean, I think there have been totally different eras of them. If you go back and read fantasy and sci-fi from like the 80s and 90s, it's really, really different than it is now. I think as a genre, it's not so male-dominated as far as authors go, so you have a lot greater mix of ideas. There's a lot of interesting perspectives that you didn't used to get, and you can talk about real literary things using fantasy. So there's a lot of regardless of what your taste is, there's probably something there for you. I think that a lot of this kind of the stink of things like Dungeons and Dragons and fantasy has sort of evaporated. There was a time where that was thought to be really lowbrow, and it's not quite the same anymore. People have seen stories that I think elevate the genre or make them realize that it's not necessarily not for them.
I have been recently reading Rebecca Kwong, and I think she fits that mold kind of perfectly. She's a young author writing about her experiences. Who are you reading right now, and who are you trying to turn people on to?
My personal reading time is almost zero at the moment, but if you're
no reading, no video games,
or,
what are you doing?
Yeah, what do I get to do? I work all day. I really like T. Kingfisher, Ursula Vernon. She writes kind of some cozy fantasy adjacent stuff, but also she writes horror. She writes whatever she wants, which I think is really fabulous. Martha Wells, the Murderbot series, I think is a lot of fun. I really enjoy those, and they're nice.
Oh yeah,
and short,
they just launched that
really
series also.
Yep,
the
absolutely.
TV series,
so
yeah.
there's so much stuff coming out all the time. It's almost ridiculous.
And then you hear every book getting picked up for another series. You're like, oh, got to put that on a watch list. Well, Travis, your new book, Brigands and Bread Knives, it comes out November 11th. I know it's going to be available at Auntie's, and I think you'll be at Auntie's as well, possibly signing some copies for some folks, and they can follow you or Auntie's on Instagram to find out details on that. Travis, anything else you want to add before I let you go?
Thank you to everybody in Spokane. It's a fabulous city to live in, and I've met all kinds of wonderful people here, and thanks for reading.
Awesome. Travis Baldree, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks.
And once again, you can get Travis's new book, Brigands and Bread Knives, out November 11th. You can get all the books from the Legends and Lattes series. We'll have the link to get those on our website, kxly.com. For now, in studio, I'm Rob King for 4 News Now.